Support for this podcast comes from listeners and St. Alphonsus Health System, a regional network of hospitals, clinics, and care providers. St. Alphonsus offers comprehensive healthcare services to individuals and families throughout the community. More information about services and locations is available at stalphonsus.org.
From Boise State Public Radio, this is The Connector. It's Idaho's Daily News. Good morning. I'm George Prentice. This morning we have a story on SNAP benefits, food stamps, and what Idaho has been doing with the data of food stamp recipients. You'd be surprised at this one, and we'll tell you about a big construction project involving Idaho Power and a good number of people asking, who is that power for? It is Monday, November 3rd. Here we go with today's stories. As the government shutdown drags on, federal employees who support our airports, such as air traffic control and TSA agents, have already received their first $0 paycheck, reflecting a half a month of working without pay. At some airports, the situation prompted some employees not showing up for work. That has triggered cancellations, and that often can have a domino effect across the nation's air traffic system. We've checked in with our region's largest airport. Here's Jennifer Kronberg, Communications Manager at the Boise Airport.
The Boise Airport has been extremely fortunate that our federal partners have continued to report for work despite not being paid by the government.
But now comes a season of inclement weather and, of course, the holidays and some of the busiest travel days of the year.
We always recommend, especially when traveling as we start getting into the winter holidays and the winter weather, that travelers should always check with their airlines to make sure that their flights are still running according to schedule. And in addition, the airport is busier than usual at this time of year. And with the shutdown, we might be experiencing some difficulties with staffing in the future.
And a quick check, most flights are on schedule this morning. You can check the status of any outbound or inbound flight at iflyboise.com. The government shutdown turned off funding for SNAP benefits, food stamps, this past weekend, leaving tens of thousands of Idahoans with very few options of how to put food on their table. It turns out that the U.S. Department of Agriculture asked for the personal information of all Americans receiving food stamps. NPR reports 27 states complied, including Idaho. Julie Lucata takes a closer look.
The Idaho Department of Health and Welfare sent the name, address, date of birth, and social security numbers of 141,000 food stamps recipients to the federal government. It also shared the immigration status of family members. The Idaho Department says it sent the data for 2025 and was working on compiling the information of applicants from the last 5 years. Under federal law, people without legal status do not qualify for SNAP benefits, but they can apply for their U.S. citizen children to receive assistance. Recipients can also live in households with mixed status family members. In October, 21 Democrat-led states filed a lawsuit against the USDA saying the data grab violates federal privacy law and is part of Trump's mass surveillance campaign. Immigration advocates fear the sensitive information will be shared with law enforcement agencies such as ICE. The USDA declined to share any information, saying they did not comment on pending litigation. Julie Lucata, Boise State Public Radio News.
Construction is now underway on a new 500-megawatt power line that will serve Idaho Power. It's known as the Boardman to Hemingway line, covering nearly 300 miles from eastern Oregon through southwest Idaho. As Troy Oppie reports, opponents have seized on an updated plan that shows the new line might be used for a data center instead of just for traditional customers.
Co-owner Pacific Corp first announced its energy distribution plans were changing at an April meeting of the Oregon Utility Commission. That development was reported by the Oregonian newspaper. Idaho Power, the other co-owner, is using eminent domain to build towers along the 300-mile path. Opponents say not using the power to serve traditional customers, aka the broader public good, invalidates that authority. The utility is paying landowners to use their land, and while some are still fighting, many agreements are already in place, says Idaho Power spokesman Brad Bolin.
There's a transmission towers going up in various places, roads being placed to get equipment to where it needs to go.
Some landowners have taken the utility to court, but the line is planned to be operational in 2027. Bolin says what Pacific Corp does with its 55% ownership of power carried on the line will not change how much energy comes to serve Idaho Power customers.
The primary purpose for the line, as far as Idaho Power is concerned, is to meet our customers' peak energy needs in the summer. And that's largely driven by irrigation and residential use.
Opponents of the transmission line will make their case to disqualify eminent domain authority before the Oregon Utility Commission November 13th. Troy Oppie, Boise State Public Radio News.
We're now one day until Election Day, when Idahoans determine the path that they want their communities to travel. Voters are deciding the fate of city councils, fire districts, school bonds, and levies. There's heightened interest in Ada County this year. Nearly 13,000 participated in early voting. 18,000 voters requested absentee ballots, and nearly 11,000 of those have already returned. Election officials tell us that there have been higher numbers in Boise and Star, where there are highly contested city council races. And in Boise, voters are also deciding the fate of a new levy to fund projects on clean water and open space acquisitions. Across the state, there are no fewer than 30 school levies and bonds totaling about $156 million. In the city of Ketchum, voters are being asked to decide whether they want to remain in a mayoral form of government or if they want to shift to a city manager form of government. In the McCall region, voters are being asked to consider the creation of a recreation district in anticipation of building a year-round indoor rec center. And voters are also being asked in McCall to consider a $950,000 supplemental levy for the school district. That would pay for bus transportation, food services in the school, and special education programs. Tomorrow, polls open at 8 a.m. A reminder, you can find your polling location and view your ballot at voteidaho.gov. And that is today's episode of The Connector. I'm George Prentice. What do you say we get back here together on Tuesday? You can stay in touch with the news anytime at boisestatepublicradio.org. Tell your friends and family about The Connector and how they can find it wherever they find their favorite podcasts. For now, from me to you, thanks for listening.
The stories don't stop when this podcast does. Boise State Public Radio's Instagram gives you reels, updates, and snapshots from our reporters in the field. Follow Boise State Public Radio on Instagram today.